Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. The House passed a measure seeking to remove Confederate statues from the Capitol. Yet some say removing the statues is like erasing a part of America's history. Trump visited the southern border yesterday. He said even if we wanted to, it wouldn't be easy to go back to the policies of his time. For once, the Supreme Court rules to uphold election integrity, dealing a blow to the Democrats. In Florida, a new law protects parents' rights to educate and care for their children. Parents are now empowered to push back radical agendas in schools. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. The House passed a bill on Tuesday to remove Confederate statues and the bust of former Chief Justice Roger Taney from the Capitol. The bill garnered bipartisan support with a vote of 285 to 120. But notably, all 120 nays were from Republicans. In 1857, Taney authored a key decision that black people couldn't be considered American citizens and slavery was not prohibited under the Constitution. For this reason, Democrats argue Americans who are symbols of slavery and sedition are not welcome in the halls of Congress. Instead, the bill would replace Taney with a bust of Associate Justice Thurgood Marshall, who in 1967 became the first African American to serve on the Supreme Court. Statues of Confederate leaders in Statuary Hall would also be removed for the very same reason. Originally, it was up to state officials to decide who would be on display, and each state honored two figures. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy also backed the measure. He said, "Let me state a simple fact. All of the statues being removed by this bill are statues of Democrats." Well, it's true that all those figures were Democrats. However, McCarthy seemed to suggest if they had been Republicans, it would be a different story. This is not a partisan issue. This is not something to politicize. Those people are part of American history. I saw one good comment on this. A person said, "A nation has to understand its foundations and its advancements to keep moving forward. Statuary Hall does not glorify, it represents our past." Republican Representative Mo Brooks, who voted against the measure, condemned the effort as a violation of states' rights. Brooks defended Alabama's statue of Joseph Wheeler. He pointed out that Wheeler was the only Confederate general to later become a United States general and was buried in Arlington National Cemetery. He denounced the bill as an example of cancel culture and historical revisionism by elitists who claim they know more than regular citizens. You see, the Democrats can't even tolerate the history of their own party. Removing the statues is like denying part of their past. The reality is, too many historical figures are controversial for all kinds of reasons. Would you cancel them all? History inspires people by both its merits and its mistakes. Those who don't learn from history are bound to repeat it. Gas prices across the country are at the highest since 2014. As of June 30th, the national average is $3.12 a gallon, up 43% from a year ago. How much will it affect you? If you fill up a 20-gallon tank, expect to pay $20 more than you did a year ago. If you're in California, gas prices have reached over $4.41 in many areas. As many as 43 million Americans are hitting the road this Independence Day weekend. This will strain gas supplies and drive the cost even higher. Gas prices first passed the $3 mark in May following the cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline. But prices never came back down. The Biden administration's adverse policies on the oil and gas industry will likely keep energy prices up in the long term. Besides surging energy prices, the biggest problem that should be immediately addressed are election integrity and border security. Yesterday, Trump returned to the southern border with Texas Governor Greg Abbott. In one of Trump's last actions as president, he visited the border wall and urged Democrats to complete it. Trump had made the construction of a border wall a key campaign promise in 2016. At the time, he said, "There's only two things. You're either incompetent or, for some reason, you have a screw loose and you want to have open borders." This some reason used to be obscure, but under the current administration, it is abundantly clear that Democrats, at least the far left that dominates the party, want more immigrants. If legal immigration is happening too slowly, they don't mind immigrants getting into the country illegally. Last week, Kamala Harris finally made her way to the southern border, but she didn't visit the epicenter of the crisis. Here's what Harris missed seeing firsthand. At the Rio Grande Valley, coyotes are guiding hundreds of migrants crossing the river each single day. After Biden took office, he reversed a slew of Trump-era immigration and border policies, including the construction of the border wall. The damages have been done. Even if people want to go back to Trump policies now, it's not going to happen quickly, as Trump suggested yesterday.
And we better go back fast. And, you know, I watch a couple of even you people said that, well, we could start it immediately. Well, it's not going to go fast because you have to go back now and start the whole thing up with Mexico and with the three countries. It's not going to go that quickly. You know, they say, well, we should just immediately go back. It's not that easy. But we have a sick country in many ways. It's sick in elections and it's sick in the border. And if you don't have good elections and if you don't have a strong border, you don't have a country.
Talking about elections, the Democratic primary for New York City's mayor is causing quite a ruckus. The city's first attempt at ranked choice voting, known as RCV, descended into confusion and chaos on June 29th. In the RCV system, voters cast ballots for multiple candidates in order of preference. If a candidate has more than half of the first choice votes, the candidate wins. But if a voter's first choice is eliminated, then the vote goes to the second choice. This process continues until there's a majority winner. On June 29th, when the Board of Elections posted initial totals, there were 135,000 more votes counted than the total announced on election night on June 22nd. Candidate and Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams had a 10-point lead on election night. That shrank to just 2 points on Tuesday. He pointed to the irregularities and demanded an explanation. The board soon acknowledged its mistake. It claimed that 135,000 ballot images put into the computer system from testing purposes had never been cleared. So Tuesday's results were the actual votes plus the so-called test votes. The board created a 14% error. The voided results also showed a closer race, with Catherine Garcia moving up to second place and Maya Wiley falling from second to third. Wiley, a former MSNBC analyst and civil rights lawyer, slammed the board's incompetence after hearing the news. In a statement, she said, "This error by the Board of Elections is not just failure to count votes properly today, it is the result of generations of failures that have gone unaddressed. Sadly, it is impossible to be surprised. Last summer, the Board of Elections mishandled tens of thousands of mail-in ballots during the June 2020 primary. We have once again seen the mismanagement that has resulted in a lack of confidence in results, not because there is a flaw in our election laws, but because those who have implemented it have failed too many times." Republicans also criticized the New York board. Election authorities had no problem with Democrats complaining about irregularities and quickly admitted their error, while allegations made by Republicans regarding the 2020 presidential race were mocked and dismissed oftentimes as conspiracy theories. Last night, the Board of Elections posted the last count. It turns out the race is even closer than the Tuesday results showed. Adams won by fewer than 15,000 votes with a majority of just 51.1%. But nothing is final. The totals don't include the 124,000 absentee ballots, which can certainly change the outcome. A close race like this, and like the 2020 election in many of the battleground states, tells you how important it is to count every legal vote correctly. Now, before we continue, please hit that like button and subscribe. And most importantly, share this video with your friends and family. As we all know, word of mouth is the most effective way to spread the truth. If you want to support the Eye Opener, please consider donating to the show or purchasing a mug that matters. You can find the link in the description below, and your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. In Pennsylvania, Republicans' efforts on election reform encountered a setback. Yesterday, Democratic Governor Tom Wolf vetoed a GOP-backed election integrity measure. The bill passed the Republican-held state Senate, but fell short of the 2/3 majority to override Wolf's veto. The measure would impose sweeping changes to voting rules to improve ballot security, such as expanding voter ID requirements, requiring signature verification for mail-in ballots, and limiting the use of drop boxes. The bill would also increase voter access, including expanding voter registration deadlines from 15 to 30 days before an election and updating procedures to help voters with disabilities. Yet, in explaining why he vetoed the measure, Wolf blindly echoed the narrative that Republicans' election reform efforts create barriers to voting. He named 3 things that this bill would do, including cutting voter registration time. Well, if he read the bill, he would know that it actually extends registration deadlines to 30 days. Wolf completely ignored that these key provisions in the legislation have overwhelming support from Pennsylvanians. The latest poll from June shows 59% of registered voters believe that the state's election laws need to be revised. 81% favor signature matching for mail-in ballots, and 74% supported photo ID requirements. Any serious voter who doesn't want his or her vote to be diluted by illegal ballots would support this measure. However, protecting election integrity is not the goal of Democrats. The Supreme Court's performance regarding 2020 election has been a huge disappointment, to say the least. It used a lack of standing as an excuse too many times. Yet this morning, the High Court ruled to uphold election integrity. In a 6-3 vote, the Supreme Court upheld 2 Arizona voting provisions: a ban on ballot harvesting and a policy that throws out a ballot if it's cast in the wrong precinct. Republicans applauded the ruling as a resounding victory for election integrity, not just in Arizona, but for the entire country. Arizona Attorney General Mark Brnovich thanked the court. "I am thankful the justices upheld states' ability to pass and maintain common sense election laws at a time when our country needs it most." Upholding justice is precisely what the court should be doing. The 3 justices who voted against Arizona's voting laws are Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan. In Ohio, the legislature approved a bill this week that would ban public schools and universities from mandating vaccines. The measure would also prohibit institutions from discriminating against non-vaccinated individuals. This includes forcing unvaccinated people to wear masks and segregating people or denying services based on whether or not you got the vaccine. Remember though, none of the vaccines currently being used are fully approved by the FDA. The bill has now reached Governor Mike DeWine's desk. He has yet to comment on the issue. Republican State Senate President Matt Huffman said the decision whether or not to get the vaccine should be made by the students' parents, while young adults should be able to independently make the decision. Today, in some parts of the country, schools can not only push students to get vaccinated without their parents' knowledge, they can also give a child transgender treatments without parental consent. On another front, radical ideologies such as critical race theory and excessive and inappropriate sex education materials are shoved into curriculums. Many parents are shocked by some of the things their children are learning at school, but find themselves powerless to do anything about it. Now, a new Florida law is targeting all these fiery issues by asserting parents' rights to educate and care for their children. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Parents' Bill of Rights into law on June 29th. Some of the parental rights in the new law include: a parent may remove a child from any school district's health education, including sex education or any instructions regarding sexuality. A parent can refuse immunizations. Parents can also enroll their children in special education programs, and a parent has the right to inspect school district instructional materials. In addition, healthcare practitioners and their employees can't provide healthcare services or prescribe drugs to a child without written parental consent. Now, each district school board is required to develop procedures informing parents of these rights and responsibilities. Florida State Coordinator of the ParentalRights.org, Patty Sullivan, and her family have been working hard on this legislation for years. Sullivan said, "Now the law affirms what parents already knew, that their parental rights are fundamentally. We're looking forward to parents stepping up to their right in the days ahead. The Parents' Bill of Rights is effective starting today." And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in our Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, and Parler. Don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch with each other. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.